Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
All right, so I've been wanting for a little while to get our guest today on because there's a couple of things I want to talk about, and there was no better week to bring this guest on than this week. You might know him on Twitter as SteelersDB, Derek Bell. He does draft stuff. He also does Steelers stuff. And in a week where we're talking about both, I thought, who better to bring on than you, Derek? How's everything going, man?
Everything's been really busy, man. I said to you before we started recording, I know the Browns are keeping you busy these days with all of these trades. It's been a eventful college football season, so trying to keep my head above water with all the draft content as well. And then, the Steelers are somehow, some way, 3-1, headed out of the bye week. So yeah, it's always busy, man. But I can't complain. It's fun to do what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I want to first talk about this 2026 class, and I have to give you credit, right? Because the first person I ever heard mention quarterback from Indiana might be a first round prospect for Fernando Mendoza. That was you. And now I think we're at the point here to where a lot of people are circling around to that. I mean, big game this weekend for him versus Oregon, right? I think that'd be the one that really gets the attention. I think potentially has the chance to kind of codify what the top of this class is going to be, because if both those guys ball out, then that's the Tua Joe Burrow. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to be that level of prospect, but that's kind of like when Tua Joe Burrow, LSU Alabama had that amazing game, and everybody was like, well, these are the two guys, right? And I think Justin Herbert was in that class too, right?
Mm-hmm.
What a class.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting how this weekend overall shapes how things go with Mendoza. And it's interesting because since he's a unknown to most people watching, there are things that people are like, well, we don't know if he can do this. But you've watched a lot of Fernando Mendoza. What from your watching of him are things that you don't really question about his games that maybe people who just started watching him in Indiana might have questions about with him?
Yeah, I mean, Mendoza coming out of the summer was my QB1. Of course, like the summer scouting is it's a lot of projection based, right? Especially with this class, because there's a lot of guys in it that didn't have a ton of experience. Like you're not talking about, and really that's how the season has played out. Like the older guys that have played a lot have kind of underwhelmed, and it's been the guys that maybe a lot of people didn't get eyes on in the summer have actually been really, really good. So I think with Mendoza, a couple things stood out to me at Cal, and it was the size. He's got a good arm in terms of being able to drive the football into tight windows. But I was really impressed with just like his mental processing, just how he understood about processing the blitz. Like he was absolute nails against the blitz last year, and some of that stuff you've seen flash at Indiana too, in terms of being able to get the ball out on time. I think that's a big thing that I'm like gravitating more towards with quarterbacks coming out of college is, not taking a lot of sacks, understanding how to get the ball out on time in rhythm, and just being able to play from within the pocket. Because I think, the guys that come into the league and they kind of struggle to navigate the pocket, especially when there's a lot of pressure around them. They struggle early on, and it's just really difficult to kind of get those guys adjusted on the fly. But, with Mendoza, it's, the accuracy is really good too. And I just think that the ball location has really stood out as well. He's dropped a couple like highlight worthy throws. I mean, even against Iowa last week, he hit a whole shot from the opposite hash, like 40, 50 yards, just on an absolute rope. So there's been a lot of good stuff. And then you mentioned like going up against Oregon. Oregon's got one of the best defenses in the country. Dante Moore, when I revamped my quarterback rankings last week, that's what I spent the bye week doing. I put Dante Moore as my QB2 because I think he's had the best tape of any quarterback so far this season. And Moore actually reminds me, I don't know that I was the first person to watch Mendoza. I don't know if I'm the first person to bring this comp for Moore out. Moore reminds me a lot of CJ Stroud in terms of just the consistent poise under pressure, the environment, the blitz and stuff around him just never feels too big for him. He's only taken one sack this year on like 38 pressure dropbacks, which is phenomenal. Real compact, smooth delivery. And he made some big plays against Penn State last week in that win. So he reminds me a little bit of CJ Stroud. So take that for what it's worth. But I'm sure Browns fans are really in lockstep with this quarterback class. And my overarching takeaway is that I don't think it's as bad as Twitter wants you to believe it is. I think you just got to recalibrate your mind to get those summer consensus rankings out of your brain and just watch what the film tells you. And I think there's been some really impressive players.
Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code Worst Take. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper. Yeah, I always make this point about this class where people are like dead set on it being Aller or,
Got to keep an open mind, man. Things change.
Well, it's like I remember Joe Burrow, right? Like you come into that season and Joe Burrow's just another dude who plays college football, right? And then all of a sudden, halfway through the year, you're like, this guy's not only going to be the number 1 overall pick, he's going to be one of the better number 1 overall picks that ever come out, right? Well, to come out this year, well, in the last 10, 15 years, right? And you just never know, right? Who could have the right year, who takes off, all of that. One thing that I've always thought was interesting with like quarterback development and drafting is kind of what are the opinions of the education that quarterback has gotten, right? Like if you think about it, you get a normal job, you graduate from Harvard, they're going to think you more ready for a job in law than if you graduated from like American Samoa Online, right? Like,
right.
So I wonder like when it comes to like Mendoza, who I think he had Musgrave, right, as the OC over there at Cal for a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. And then, of course, now they've got. Cignetti has had Indiana has had a little bit of a run. Like he's had a run of putting some quarterbacks at least in the league. I don't think any of those guys have been as physically talented as Mendoza. But like what you're saying is, it is difficult because all these quarterbacks like they're not all playing in similar offenses. I think their one gripe kind of with Cignetti's offense at Indiana is like it is kind of like RPO heavy. And that's why I'm kind of excited about this weekend's matchup because it's really their one game on the schedule that you can say they're going to be overmatched in terms of talent, especially in the trenches. So I think he's going to be put in more true drop back situations. And what we've seen has been good. It's just a matter of like, this is going to be his biggest test. And like what you're saying is like, not all of these guys are operating like NFL caliber concepts all the time. And you're not going to get that in college. That's not their main focus is getting dubs. It's not trying to get these guys ready for Sundays, as much as we want it to be.
Well, there's like a scale, right? Like the Josh Heupel, I would say probably like
doesn't care at all.
Translate at all, right? Like what you're seeing there. And then there are guys who kind of go further into that. Where does Oregon sit in that scale? Because they've had Bo Nix come out. I believe Herbert was actually Cristobal, right? But Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel, the kind of rep on those two were that they're ready to play. But they're also like, before they even got to there, they had a full college football careers worth of snaps under the belt.
Yeah.
I wonder like how do NFL teams look at like that Oregon offense and what they do there and say to themselves like, oh, we think that they're preparing these guys somehow like to be pros in the NFL. Because when I watch it, I'm like, man, Oregon's offense is just so boring most of the time. But then you see these guys come out and, Dante Moore's another example where it's like, it looks like they know what they're doing though.
Yeah, I think the big thing for Moore, which I'll give like my NFL draft co-host credit with this, because he hit me up like the first couple weeks and was like telling me he was playing really well. Went back and watched the film. I had seen some highlights, and the arm talent with Moore, it's clear that like he can make plays out of structure. He can operate from within the pocket, and he's got a good arm, and he's really accurate. That's good. I wasn't really sure of like what his above the neck stuff would look like, just because like at UCLA it was a little bit murky when he was starting as a true freshman. Didn't play at all last year. Gets put into the lineup, and it's like the second week of the season. I saw him like early in the game. They're running a sail concept. So they're running flood to the left side. He immediately, like, he's taking like a 3 or 5 step drop out of the gun. He eliminates the front side of the concept and then gets back to the backside dig like on time. Like he puts the ball almost like down the hash, which is just like NFL caliber timing. And when you get those plays, it immediately makes you perk up a little bit because you don't see every college quarterback be able to get to the backside of a full field read progression like that. We don't get it all the time, and you don't even see it like, there's some NFL quarterbacks that you just never see do that stuff in the league now. So when you see college kids be able to, handle that much responsibility, it's good. But there are certain matchups and certain times, depending on opponent, where like you just don't get a ton of like translatable reps where you're able to really like fully grade anything other than okay accuracy decision making. So I think with more the small sample size of him reading out those type of concepts is good. Another thing that I've been impressed with from him is his ability to handle like coverage rotations and find like advantageous matchups, away from rotation or just picking like the right spots to take his one-on-ones. And he's got a lot of talented weapons over there in Oregon, no doubt. But I've been really impressed by just the poise that he plays with, more than anything else. I think it really stood out, Penn State in that environment last weekend.
All right. Any guys just in this class at the position that you feel like are a little bit of that are interesting, but definitely not in that top conversation, right? But they are interesting. Maybe they're going to be more polarizing figures during the draft process because there are things you could legitimately just not have a great taste for in their game, but that you have a liking towards.
Yeah, it's I actually have a lot of names like that. I would say that most of those names that I'm kind of interested in are younger guys that aren't going to be in this class, but are probably going to be in the next class. One guy who has been kind of interesting recently, I think everybody knows about Lenora Sellers, and everybody's going to gravitate towards the tools, and you don't really need like a full scouting report on him. Alabama's Ty Simpson has been extremely good this season. I would say, if you were just looking at, you talked about like the system things and like what happens in the league versus college offenses. There's no one in college football making more NFL caliber throws than Ty Simpson. The way that I kind of described him was like he's like a rhythmic distributor. He's just been surgical over the middle of the field. I rattled off these stats for one of my videos yesterday, but over the middle of the field this season, he's 22 intermediate middle of the field, so like 10 to 19 yards in between the numbers. He's 22 of 27 for 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. 3 of his 5 incompletions have been drops. He has been like lights out, and this is his first year starting. He's been at Alabama for 4 years. He's been sitting behind other guys, and I don't know. He's playing with an unbelievable amount of polish and confidence. I don't think the arm talent is anything crazy. I think that outside the numbers, the ball doesn't get driven with the same velocity as it does down the middle. But he plays with anticipation. So I don't know if he's going to be in this class. The other guys that I would say I'm kind of intrigued by just in terms of their talent and skill set would be Darian Mensah from Duke has some tools, and I think that he has like the touch and accuracy. He's an aggressive player in terms of pushing the ball down the field. And one of my holdovers from the summer was Aiden Childs from Michigan State. Like that kid, he can move around, really athletic kid. I like the fact that Michigan State's offense actually puts him under center. He can drive the football with a lot of RPMs. And he'll go over the middle a little bit, but I want to see that part of his game in terms of the decision making too. But he's played better football this year. I've just kind of banked on him being a 2027 guy because I don't think he's even 21 yet. So if it was up to me, all these guys would have to play, like stay all 4 years, and we'd need like 3 years of film before these guys declared. But that's just not the reality that we're living in, unfortunately, with the NFL draft. So, but Charles would be a guy more 2027. But Ty Simpson, if you haven't watched him yet, that he's putting on some really fun tape.
He's been there since what, 2022, right?
Yeah, this is his first time like really getting any type of playing time. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, has he redshirted? So he's what, redshirt junior?
Yeah, I guess he was. I don't know if he redshirted his first year or not. I mean, like he was in a couple games, like blowouts, I think, last year, But honestly, like I had no idea when they named him the starter. I was just kind of like, oh, like this kid who's been there multiple years, he's just going to start for Bama. And then, I think he had his game against Wisconsin, he threw 4 touchdowns. He beat Georgia, which like Bama seems to have Georgia's number recently. He had some really nice throws against Georgia. He had a couple hole shots against them, and then even last week against Vandy, I liked his kind of the mental resolve. He threw an early interception against them, and then bounced back, and he was nails. And the thing about Alabama is like they've obviously got playmakers. They've got Horton, Jeremy Bernard, and him have good you know chemistry. But Ryan Williams, like their best player, like has had a bad case of the drops this year. He's having a good season, but like if he
Mhm.
hauls in a couple of these deep balls, Simpson's numbers look even more impressive. So yeah, if you haven't got eyes on him, he might be in this class.
All right, so a lot of eyes to look forward to in the college football season. Make sure you guys check out Derek's work on that.